Alright, Hamilton, let me help you out. So I want you to know that when you have medical terms, it's important to understand the medical components of the term. And I know you've been having a little bit of difficulty with this. So I'm going to help you learn this in terms of soccer because I know, just like me, you're a big soccer fan. So I'm going to help you learn this in terms of soccer positions, in terms of defenders, midfielders, and attackers, okay? Now, when you have the whole team together, it makes a medical term. But it's important to know that not every position on the field is the same, and that together they make up the whole team. So let's go over what those different components are. First, we're going to have our prefixes, right? Now these are going to go before the words, and they're noted by a dash at the end of the word, right? So here we have Brady. So Brady, when it's a prefix, is going to mean slow. Here we have ab. Ab, when used as a prefix, is going to mean away from. And here we have anti. And anti, when used as a prefix, means against. So these are going to be our defenders, the prefixes. All right. Now let's move into the midfield. So here, the midfield, we have our combining forms, right? So hemo means blood. Cardio means heart. And hydro means fluid or liquid. Now these are the combining forms. And what's important to know about the combining forms is they're made up of the root word. So when you take away this ending, heme is the root word. Cardi is the root word. And hyd is the root word. But when you use them as part of the whole team, you add on the combining form, which is this. You add on the O. And we'll go over the rules a little bit later. But I just want you to become familiar with the midfielders, our root words or our combining forms. So next, over here, we have our attackers. Now these are going to be the suffixes. And every medical term is going to have a suffix. So let's go over the three that I have listed here. This one, ria, is going to mean flow or discharge. And you can know it's a suffix because it has a dash before the term. This next one here, site, means cell. And the last one I have here, itis, means inflammation. And so individually, each one of these prefixes, root, combining forms, and suffixes has its own meaning, right? Each player has its own function on the team. But when you put it together, when you put the team together of all the different components of all the players, they combine to form one goal to make one word. So let's go over how you form your team next. Alright, so here I've composed, we have three different teams, and they're each going to have their own components and their own players. And that's going to make up the team. So let's start with the first one, cardiology. So here's the medical term, and we can better understand it by breaking up into its components, into the different players. So here I have the two components, right? Cardio and ology. So cardio means heart, and ology means the study of. And how we can understand the whole team, or the medical term, is by beginning with the suffix, beginning with the attackers, and understanding the suffix, and then coming back to the beginning and going from there. So we know ology means the study of, and cardio is the heart. So we can understand that cardiology means study of the heart. And let's use this example to note one thing about medical terms. When the suffix begins with the vowel, we can drop the combining vowel in the combining form. So instead of cardiology, we just have cardiology with one O. Let's move on to arthritis. So here are the two components of arthritis. We have arthro and itis. Itis meaning inflammation, and arthro meaning joints. So, reading it from back to front, we have inflammation of the joints, arthritis. Now let's take this third example, gastroenterology. So, we can do the same thing with this one. We already know that ology means the study of, And we have two other combining forms, gastro and entero. Gastro meaning stomach and entero meaning intestines. So one thing to note here is that when two roots are combined, you keep the combining vowel in between them. So that's why you keep the O in gastroenterology. So understanding this word, we begin with the suffix ology, study of, and we go back to the front. Gastroentero, study of the stomach intestines. So now let's build our own team. Let's start with the components and combine them into a medical term. Let's start with this. We have two different components, uro and emia. So let's first understand what they are, beginning with the suffix. Emia means blood. Uro means urinary. So let's combine them. And we know that since the suffix begins with a vowel, we can drop this form here and make it uremia. There it is, uremia. And we know that that's blood in the urine by understanding its components. Let's move on. Here we have urethra, which means red. And here, cyte, which means cell. So, when combining the two, erythrocyte, we read it from the suffix cyte to urethro. Cell of red, which is red blood cell. Now our last one here. Let's start with the suffix oma, which means tumor. Carcino, which means cancerous. And we can drop this vowel at the end because we know that the suffix begins with the vowel. So, when combining it, we have carcinoma, meaning tumor that is cancerous. So let's go over another concept. Some components of medical terms, they seem like they're the same, but yet they're very different. These I've likened to suggest that they are on different teams. So let's go over the teams we have here. On top here, we have myelo and myo. Now, although they might seem similar, they're on different teams. They mean two different things. Myelo means spinal cord, and myo means muscle. So those are our two teams. Now let's go over our other team. Here we have anti and anti. Now, although they only have one different letter in them, they're very different. You might think they're similar, but yet they're on opposite teams. Anti here means opposed or against, and anti means before. So let's see how this plays out when forming medical terms and how they can be used to mean different things. Antitoxin means against a toxin or opposing a toxin. Antepartum means before birth. And we can understand that by understanding how anti and anti are different. Now, back to our first team, myalgia means muscle pain. Myo meaning muscle. Myelitis means inflammation of the spinal cord. Myelo meaning spinal cord. So there we can see how components that may seem similar are on opposite teams and they mean different things. Alright, Hamilton. Let's finish this off by understanding some other components of medical terms. These terms, ectomy, stomy, and tomy, are also very similar, but they have different meanings. Ectomy means removal, and when we use it with the word nephrectomy, means removal of the kidney. Stomy, although it sounds similar to ectomy, means something different. It means creating an opening, or stoma. So when used in this phrase, colostomy, it means opening of the colon. This term, tomy, is also similar, but it means an incision. When used in this word, craniotomy, it means incision of the skull or cranium. Let's look at a few other examples. Here we have scope and scopy. Scope means instrument for viewing, and scopy means process for viewing. Now let's use it with the same root, micro. Micro meaning small. So, microscope means instrument for viewing small things. Microscopy means process for viewing small things. Very similar and yet unique in its own way. Let's look at our third example. Here we have gram, graph, and graphy. Gram meaning record, graph meaning instrument for recording, and graphy meaning process for recording. Let's use it with the root cardio. So, cardiogram, knowing what gram means and knowing what cardio means record of the heart. Cardiograph would mean instrument for recording the heart. And cardiography would mean process for recording the heart. So as you can see, understanding the small components can lead you to understand a broader medical term. Alright Hamilton, thanks for watching this video, and I hope the next time you play soccer, you'll remember this and remember the importance of understanding all the different medical components of a medical word and why it's important when trying to understand the complete medical term.